Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm hoping there's some people up that can join me tonight. Yes, I would like some people on with me tonight. Need some people on with me tonight because I know that somebody out there is dealing with some anxiety. And so tonight we're going to talk about anxiety because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I have different topics that I want to talk about this month and just bring awareness to people who may be suffering from anxiety. I want you to know that you're not alone because myself have suffered with anxiety. Actually, I'm currently experiencing anxiety because I'm in my practicum in my last year of my master's. And so I've had some anxiety, and anxiety disrupted my life back in 2013. I went through a divorce, and anxiety became my friend. And so I want you to know today that anxiety is not your friend. And I don't want you to think that you have to befriend anxiety. It doesn't have to be a part of your life. It doesn't have to have control over your life. And so that's why tonight I want to deal with anxiety, because a lot of us have anxiety. Most people I know have anxiety. People I've talked to have anxiety. This is not something that you can make up. And so sometimes life can disrupt our emotions and offset us to the point where we become emotionally unstable in our thoughts and in our behaviors. And so tonight, let's talk about anxiety. Let's talk about it because it actually can affect anybody. Anxiety doesn't have an age limit. It doesn't matter your economical status. It doesn't matter your title. It doesn't matter your family history. It does not care. But anxiety can have a negative impact on your mental and physical state. And so here we're looking at, I'm actually going off of factual information from Psychology Today. If anybody out there is familiar with Psychology Today, we're talking about anxiety. And so if you know at any point of life when you have experienced anxiety, you know that anxiety would cause you to worry. It would cause you to overthink. It would cause some unpleasant feelings in your thought and behavior process. And sometimes we react to what we feel. And when our anxiety bring all of these emotions, sometimes we react. And those reactions are based on false realities, because anxiety can have a play on your emotions and your thought processes. And so I want you to understand that anxiety is meant to stimulate you. It's meant to cause you to feel uneased. It's meant to cause distractions in your life. It's meant to offset you. That's the point of what anxiety is about. It can cause you to be non-productive. That is its duty, is to cause dysfunction in your life. And so when anxiety becomes consistent and persistent, when it becomes an everyday thing, when it gets the best of you, where you can't function, to where you are not as functional as you used to be. And that can be in your household, that can be in your careers, And that can be in your everyday life. That anxiety can affect you. And I know for myself, I had anxiety. My anxiety began back in 2013. I went through a divorce, and I found myself in an excessive state of worry. I always was worrying. And the panic attacks was not as severe. Like some people have anxiety and they have these major panic attacks, and those panic attacks can affect them so much that they can't even go in public places because that anxiety comes on them and it becomes so overwhelming that they can't even function in their normal day. And so when I was going through my divorce, my anxiety caused me to overthink and to think the worst before thinking the good. And many of you who have anxiety, you probably, even anxiety when it comes to relationships, anxiety can cause you to think in a certain way or cause you to think about things that are not even true. And they become so real that you begin to believe what you're thinking. And sometimes those thoughts are so false. They are so false. They will have you playing movies in your head where you will begin to think, oh, they don't like me, or everybody's looking at me, or I feel some type of way. I can't go in this social setting because you feel all of these negative emotions and these negative thoughts. And anxiety will cause you to withdraw. It'll cause social isolation, and you won't want to be around anybody because your anxiety is so high. And when it becomes overwhelming to the point where you are not capable of functioning at the capacity you used to function at, it can become a disorder. And so I want you to be aware of your anxiety as well as your triggers, because there are some things that would trigger your anxiety. If you've had a past history of abuse, then you may have experienced anxiety from your past history of abuse. And so if someone yells at you or if someone is a threat to you, that can become that can be one of your triggers. And so you will react in a defensive manner because this trigger has caused you to respond to what you know. And that's something of the past. And it may not be that someone is a threat to you or somebody means harm to you. It's just that you have traumatic experiences, and those experiences causes reactions. Oftentimes, anxiety can align with depression. Sometimes depression and anxiety can go together. It runs together. Depression is a downer. And so when you find yourself in a state of depression, sometimes you can be experiencing anxiety along with it. And sometimes one overrides the other. You have to know what your symptoms are, the duration of your symptoms, as well as how those symptoms are affecting you on a daily basis to be able to determine which one is more dominant than the other. And I want you to know that anxiety can be related to a lot of your childhood trauma. Some things that you may be experiencing right now in life, it can be something you went through 20 years ago that you haven't even dealt with. And now you're experiencing this anxiety, which you've experienced probably over the years, and you just never dealt with it or you never recognized it. And so I want you to be aware of what your triggers are, because sometimes if you can avoid those triggers or you can identify with those triggers, you're less likely to respond. Like for me, I know that certain things will trigger me. And so when I know that certain things will trigger me, sometimes my thoughts get to racing. Sometimes your thoughts will tell you things that are not even true. And you have to reaffirm yourself. Sometimes you have to speak positivity over yourself, because those thoughts will become so dominant that it will take control of you, and you'll be reacting to something that's not even true. And so it's not as impossible to literally just eliminate anxiety. It's hard. It's hard. So when people say, well, why do you even think about that? Why are you reacting like that? If people have not walked in your shoes and have experienced what you have experienced, then they're not relatable. They can't even imagine what you're feeling in the moment, in that experience. They cannot even experience. They can't even their mind cannot even comprehend what you're going through at that moment. And so oftentimes we often do this. We always want to compare somebody else's mental or emotional state to ours, or this is how they should respond, or this is how they should react, or they shouldn't be doing this, or they shouldn't be doing that. And we all are different. We all consume, we all process things differently. And so you can't tell anybody how to respond to what they feel or what they're experiencing in that moment. And anxiety is worldwide. It's worldwide, and it's on the rise. It ain't something that we can shove under the rug. It's something that needs to be discussed, even in our young people, because our young people experience anxiety, they experience worrying, they experience fear, they experience panic, because they are up against things in life sometimes that they're not even equipped for. There's some things that they are going to face in this society that's going to drive them to experience anxiety, because they was not prepared for that life event. And so we have to talk to our young people about anxiety and teach them ways that they can cope with anxiety, because you don't want anxiety to come on you, or you don't want anxiety to become a part of your life and you don't know how to deal with it. You have to learn to deal with your anxiety in healthy ways, because if you don't, you'll find yourself dealing with it in unhealthy ways and doing things that you normally wouldn't do. You'll find yourself behaving in ways you normally would not behave. You'll take on behavior patterns that are normally not like you. And so you want to talk to your young people as well, how to identify and recognize when they are going through a space and they're in a space of anxiety. Anxiety sometimes will bring discomfort. It will cause your heart to race. You'll think you're having a heart attack, because you can't breathe. And sometimes it affects people differently. You may withdraw and you may not want to be around anybody, but somebody else may have impending doom to where their heart is palpitating and they are at a state of distress and they need to be seen immediately. They need something to calm them down. And so there's different ways of treating anxiety. There are different medications, there are different methodologies that are used to treat anxiety and to help people who experience anxiety to retrain their thoughts. Retrain their thoughts. If you're having negative thoughts, sometimes you have to think on the positive when you're feeling or when you're experiencing those negative thoughts. When you feel like um he's cheated on me, or when you feel like I'm not going to pass this test, or when you feel like this is not going to work out. You have to replace those negative thought patterns with positive thinking, so that it won't overwhelm you and it won't become a part of your everyday distress. And so you have control. What we have to understand is that God has given us control over our life. He's given us control. And the enemy comes to offset us. And when the enemy comes to offset us, we begin to function at a rate that is outside of God's will. It's outside of God's will because God has given us authority. He's given us control over everything in our life. And it's up to us as to whether or not we are going to accept what comes on our life and what comes in our life. And we have to set boundaries. We have to say, anxiety, you cannot remain dormant in my life. You cannot remain dormant in my life. You cannot have my mind. You can't have my emotions. You can't have my behavior. You would not have control over me. And when you take authority over anxiety, that's when you can function in a normal capacity. Anxiety can cause outburst. You may find yourself reacting to stuff, and you know that is not you. People know that it's not you. So what is driving you to act out in that moment of your experiences? What is causing you? Is it a past relationship that is causing you to act out or lash out to the point you're cussing out your current spouse based on something your ex-spouse did? What is driving, what is causing your anxiety? And you have to know where your anxiety comes from. You have to know where it comes from. And anything that is coming with where it comes from can be a trigger. It can be a trigger for you. And there are different types of anxiety. However, anxiety is triggered by real world events, real life events, things that have really happened to people, rape, abuse, natural disasters, all sorts of dysfunction, all sorts of distress. And so when we decide how will we treat our anxiety, you know, everybody is not big on medicine. Everybody's not big on medicine. And that's okay. You don't have to be big on medicine as long as you're able to control your anxiety in a healthy way. Because some people will take medicine because that is good for them. And some people will find other ways, such as meditation, exercise, becoming a part of a social group, relying on spiritual support groups to help them to overcome those negative thoughts and behavior processes. And so you have to know where your anxiety stems from and how you're going to deal with it. I know for me, anxiety became my friend. At one point of life, anxiety became my friend. And I had went to the doctor, I had got medication, and I thought that the medication was helping me, but what it was actually suppressing what I didn't want to feel. It actually made me not recognize and own what I was feeling in that moment. And I needed to understand that what I was going through was a cause of my reaction. And so after I realized that, and after therapy, and after talking to people, and actually just dealing with my own trauma, it helped me to be able to tackle my anxiety right now. So when I'm going through a period of anxiety, I know what it is. I am able to identify with it. I'm able to recognize it when it comes because I've been through that before. And I know how to handle it effectively. And so I want you to know that anxiety is not your friend. Don't settle for it. Don't befriend it. Don't let it become a part of your lifestyle. Seek help when you need help. And it's okay if you need medication. It's okay if you need therapy. It's okay to speak to a spiritual counterpart. It's okay as long as you're getting the help you need so that you can sustain life in a healthy way. Blessings, and I hope that you take control of your anxiety today.